My roommate has been putting something in my food. The doctor found it. The four-drip felt cold against my arm as Dr. Martinez pulled up a chair beside my hospital bed, her expression more serious than I'd ever seen on a medical professional. It was 2:47 a.m. on a Tuesday, and I'd been in the ER for 6 hours after collapsing during my evening shift at the campus bookstore. Emma, I need to ask you something, and I want you to think carefully before you answer. She adjusted her glasses and pulled out my chart. Have you been taking any laxatives? Any diet pills? Anything for weight loss? I shook my head weakly, still feeling like my insides were on fire. No, nothing like that. I told the nurses already, I don't take any medications except my birth control. Dr. Martinez nodded slowly. That's what I thought you'd say. Emma, your blood work shows extremely high levels of bisacodyl and magnesium sulfate. Those are the active ingredients in several over-the-counter laxatives. The levels we found, they're consistent with someone who's been taking large doses regularly for months. The room started spinning again, but this time it wasn't from dehydration. That's impossible. I haven't taken anything like that, ever. The damage to your intestinal lining suggests chronic exposure. Your potassium levels are dangerously low, which is why you've been experiencing the muscle weakness and heart palpitations you mentioned. Emma, if you hadn't come in tonight, you could have had a cardiac event. I stared at the ceiling tiles, trying to process what she was telling me. For the past 4 months, I'd been getting progressively sicker. It started with occasional stomach cramps and loose stools, but by October, I was spending entire weekends curled up in bed, too weak to do anything but sleep. My roommate Mia had been so sweet about it, bringing me homemade soup and crackers, posting concerned updates on her Instagram story about how worried she was about her sick bestie. Dr. Martinez, I swear to you, I haven't taken any laxatives. But my voice trailed off as a horrifying possibility began forming in my mind. But what? Someone else has access to my food. My roommate, Mia. We've been best friends since freshman year. She does most of the grocery shopping, and she's been cooking for me a lot lately because I've been so sick. The doctor's expression grew even more grave. Emma, I need you to listen to me very carefully. If someone has been giving you these substances without your knowledge, that's poisoning. That's a serious crime. My hand started shaking, and not from the potassium deficiency. Mia had been my best friend for 3 years. She was the maid of honor at my cousin's wedding. She knew my parents' anniversary date. She was the first person I'd called when I started dating Jake 2 months ago, gushing about how perfect he was. Actually, when was the last time she'd seemed genuinely happy for me about anything? What do I need to do? I whispered. Dr. Martinez squeezed my shoulder gently. First, we're going to keep you here overnight for observation and get your electrolytes stabilized. Second, I'm going to have the lab run additional tests and document everything thoroughly. And third, you need to think about whether you want to involve the police. The police. The word hit me like a slap. This wasn't just about being sick anymore. If Dr. Martinez was right, someone I trusted with my life had been systematically trying to destroy it. And I was about to find out just how deep this betrayal went. I couldn't sleep after Dr. Martinez left, even with the exhaustion weighing down my bones. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw Mia's face, her concerned frown when she'd find me doubled over in pain, the way she'd rub my back while I threw up, how she'd insist on driving me to urgent care those 3 times in September when the cramping got so bad I could barely walk. At 4 a.m., I gave up trying to rest and pulled out my phone. My fingers hovered over Mia's contact. She'd texted me twice since I'd called out sick from work. Asterisk Mia 9:43 p.m., babe, where are you? Your manager called looking for you, asterisk. Mia 11:17 p.m., I'm getting worried, text me back. I should call her. Tell her I was in the hospital. That's what normal roommates did, right? But something cold and suspicious had settled in my chest, making me hesitate. Instead, I opened Instagram. Mia's story from 3 hours ago showed our empty apartment, captioned, so worried about my girl, anxious face with sweat, she's been so sick lately and now she's not answering her phone. The next slide was a throwback photo of us from last semester, both grinning at some party. Praying my bestie is okay, folded hands, 2 hearts, #roomie problems, #worried sick. I scrolled back through her recent posts. There were so many about my illness, more than I'd realized. September 15th, a photo of soup she'd made, #taking care of misocrimy. September 28th, a mirror selfie where she looked exhausted, up all night with them again, she's been so sick, pensive face, good friends show up though. #loyalty, #friendship. October 12th, another soup photo, my poor bestie can't keep anything down but I'm not giving up. #nurse mode. The posts painted her as this devoted, caring friend dealing with my mysterious illness. Each one had dozens of comments praising her for being so supportive. You're such a good friend. Emma's so lucky to have you. Relationship goals, honestly. My stomach churned, and this time it wasn't from the poisoning. I switched to her Instagram highlights, the permanent stories she'd saved. There was an entire highlight reel called M's Sick Days dating back to August. But I didn't start getting really sick until late August, and I told her the symptoms started gradually. How had she known to document this before I was even that bad? I screenshotted everything, my heart hammering against my ribs. Then I opened TikTok. Mia's account showed the same pattern, videos of her looking stressed and tired, talking about having a chronically ill roommate and how hard it was to watch your best friend suffer. The comments were flooded with sympathy for her, not me. One video from 2 weeks ago made my blood run cold. Mia was in our kitchen, looking teary-eyed as she stirred something in a pot. Making Emma some soup because she's having another bad day. Sometimes I feel so helpless watching someone you love go through this. But I'll never stop taking care of her. That's what real friends do. The video had 47,000 views. 47,000 strangers felt sorry for Mia because of my suffering. Suffering that, if Dr. Martinez was right, she was causing. I was about to click out of the app when I noticed something in the background of that kitchen video. On our counter, barely visible behind her elbow, was a white and blue box. I zoomed in as far as the video quality would allow. It looked exactly like a box of Dulcolax. My hands were shaking so hard I nearly dropped my phone. I took a screenshot of that too, then started scrolling through every single one of her posts from the past 4 months, looking for any other evidence hidden in plain sight. That's when I found the pharmacy receipt. It was tucked into the corner of a photo from October 3rd, a seemingly innocent selfie of Mia and me at our kitchen table, both of us smiling over coffee mugs. But there, on the counter behind us, was a crumpled CVS receipt. I zoomed in until the image pixelated, but I could just make out a few key details. The date matched the photo, and I could see Dulcolax and Miralax printed on separate lines. My coffee that morning. She'd made my coffee that morning, insisting I needed the caffeine to perk up since I'd been so sluggish. I'd felt grateful that she cared enough to baby me. I screenshotted the photo and kept scrolling, my hospital gown sticking to my back with cold sweat. The more I looked, the more I found. A TikTok from September where she was cleaning our medicine cabinet. I could see multiple laxative boxes in the background before she quickly moved them out of frame. An Instagram story from last month showing her grocery haul, where she'd strategically placed items to hide what looked like a corner of an X-Lax package. But it was her Twitter that made me want to throw up. I'd forgotten she even had Twitter, we barely used it. But her timeline told a different story than her Instagram. While Instagram was all concerned best friend, Twitter was something else entirely. August 28th, 2:31 a.m., some people really think they're better than everyone else. September 3rd, 11:47 p.m., funny how karma works lol. September 15th, 4:22 a.m., watching someone get exactly what they deserve is chef's kiss. October 1st, 1:15 a.m., she really thought she was gonna have the perfect little life, didn't she? October 19th, 3:43 a.m., can't wait for this to all blow up in her face. The dates aligned perfectly with my worst sick days. August 28th was 3 days after I told her about my first date with Jake. September 3rd was right after Jake had asked me to be his girlfriend. October 1st was the day after Jake had started talking about me meeting his parents. Every milestone in my relationship with Jake was followed by cryptic, vindictive tweets and me getting violently ill. I clicked on her followers. Most were our mutual friends from college, but there were dozens of accounts I didn't recognize, people who only seemed to follow her chronically ill roommate content. She built an entire online following around my suffering. My phone buzzed with a text from Jake, *Hey babe, hope you're feeling better. Mia told me you were super sick today. Want me to bring anything by tomorrow? Jake had been texting Mia about me. My stomach dropped as I realized she'd been playing middleman in our relationship for weeks, probably feeding him information about my condition and positioning herself as a caring friend holding everything together. I scrolled up through my text history with Jake. So many of our conversations had started with him saying Mia mentioned you were having a rough day or Mia said you might need some space tonight. I thought it was sweet that my two favorite people were coordinating to take care of me. Another text popped up, this time from Mia, and please text me back, I'm literally about to call the police to do a wellness check. The police. The irony wasn't lost on me, the same police Dr. Martinez had suggested I contact about being poisoned. I stared at the text for a long moment, then typed back, *I'm fine. Staying at Jake's tonight. Don't wait up. It was a lie, but I needed time to think. Time to figure out how to handle the fact that my best friend of 3 years had been systematically poisoning me and broadcasting my deterioration to social media for sympathy and attention. My phone buzzed again immediately, *Oh thank God. Feel better babe. I'll make you soup tomorrow red heart *. The heart emoji made my skin crawl. I turned off my phone and closed my eyes, but sleep still wouldn't come. I had evidence now. Screenshots, medical records, a clear timeline. The question was, what was I going to do with it? The nurse who came to check my vitals at 6 a.m. found me wide awake, staring at my phone screen with tears streaming down my face. Honey, are you in pain? Do you need something for nausea? She asked, adjusting my foreline. I'm fine, I lied, quickly wiping my eyes. But I wasn't fine. I'd spent the last 2 hours going down a rabbit hole that made me question everything I thought I knew about my life. After documenting Mia's social media presence, I'd started looking at my own accounts. What I found there was almost worse than her posts, months of my own updates talking about how lucky I was to have such a caring roommate, how Mia's been taking such good care of me, how I don't know what I'd do without her. I'd been publicly thanking my poisoner. But it was my call log that revealed the most disturbing pattern. Every single time I'd called out sick from work, every urgent care visit, every night I'd texted Jake to cancel plans, they all happened within 24 hours of Mia cooking for me or making me coffee. The correlation was so obvious now that I couldn't believe I'd missed it. September 14th, Mia made her famous chicken soup. September 15th, I missed 2 classes and my shift at the bookstore. October 8th, she brought me coffee in bed, said I looked tired. October 9th, Jake had to drive me to urgent care because I was too weak to walk. October 23rd, she made us both smoothies for breakfast. October 24th, I ended up in the ER. Yesterday, October 29th, she'd made me a protein shake before my evening shift, insisting I needed the nutrients. 3 hours later, I collapsed at work. The most sickening part was how she perfected the timing. She knew exactly how long it took for the laxatives to kick in, knew how to dose me so I'd get violently ill but not immediately after eating. I'd never connected my symptoms to the meals because there was always a delay. My phone buzzed with another text from her, * made you soup for when you get back from Jake's. It's in the fridge red heart *. The heart emoji again. I screenshotted that too, adding it to the folder I created called evidence. It already had 47 screenshots. At 7 a.m., Dr. Martinez returned with a social worker named Patricia and someone who introduced himself as Detective Ryan Morrison. My stomach dropped when I saw the detective's badge. Emma, I hope you don't mind, but Dr. Martinez filled us in on your situation, Patricia said gently. We'd like to ask you a few questions about your living arrangement. Detective Morrison pulled out a notepad. Can you tell us about your roommate? How long have you known her? For the next hour, I walked them through everything, our friendship, the timeline of my illness, and most importantly, the evidence I gathered on my phone. Detective Morrison's expression grew grimmer with each screenshot I showed him. This level of documentation on social media is concerning, he said, studying Mia's posts. It suggests premeditation and a desire for attention related to your suffering. Dr. Martinez nodded. The medical evidence supports systematic poisoning over approximately 4 months. The doses were carefully calibrated, enough to cause serious harm and chronic symptoms, but not enough to cause immediate, obvious poisoning. What happens now? I asked. Detective Morrison closed his notepad. We need to get you somewhere safe first. You cannot return to that apartment. Do you have somewhere else you can stay? My boyfriend Jake, or I could call my parents. Good. We'll also need to collect evidence from your apartment, including any food items and medications. And Emma? He looked at me seriously. We need you to act normal with your roommate until we can execute a search warrant. Can you do that? The thought of pretending everything was fine with Mia made my skin crawl, but I nodded. One more thing, Patricia added. We'll need to contact your university. If she's done this to you, there might be other victims. Other victims. The words hit me like a punch to the gut. How many people had Mia hurt before me? How many would she hurt after? My phone buzzed again. Another text from Mia, asterisk can't wait for you to try the soup. Used a special recipe smiling face with smiling eyes asterisk. This time, I knew exactly what made it special. At 9 a.m., Detective Morrison walked me through the plan one more time while I signed the discharge papers. My hands were steadier now that the four fluids had done their work, but my mind felt fractured, like I was living in two realities simultaneously. You'll text her that you're coming home around noon, he said, checking his watch. We need time to get surveillance set up in the hallway. The warrant should come through by 2 p.m. I nodded, though the thought of walking back into that apartment, our apartment, where I'd felt safe for 3 years, made my throat close up. What if she knows something's wrong? Mia's always been good at reading people. Just stick to the story. You stayed at Jake's, you're feeling better, you're grateful for the soup. Can you do that? Before I could answer, my phone rang. Jake's name lit up the screen, and Detective Morrison gestured for me to answer. Hey babe, how are you feeling? Jake's voice was warm with concern. Mia said you seemed really sick yesterday. I'm better. Just tired. The words felt heavy on my tongue. Actually, can I ask you something? When did you talk to Mia? She texted me around midnight, said she was worried because you weren't answering your phone. Then again this morning asking if you were with me. There was a pause. Is everything okay? You sound weird. My eyes met Detective Morrison's. He was listening intently, and I could see him making notes. Jake, I need you to do something for me and not ask questions yet. Can you screenshot your text conversations with Mia from the past few months and send them to me? That's random. Why would you want? Please. I'll explain everything later, but I really need you to do this now. Okay. Give me a few minutes. While I waited for Jake's screenshots, Patricia helped me craft the text to Mia. We went through 7 drafts before settling on something that sounded like my normal voice, asterisk feeling much better. Jake took good care of me. Coming home around noon, can't wait for that soup you made red heart asterisk. The response came back in under 30 seconds, asterisk yay. So glad you're better babe. The soup is perfect for getting your strength back smiling face with smiling eyes asterisk. She's eager, Detective Morrison observed grimly. My phone buzzed with Jake's screenshots, and what I saw made my blood turn to ice. The conversation thread between Jake and Mia went back months, way longer than I'd realized they'd been in contact. Asterisk August 30th, Mia to Jake, hey. Emma mentioned you guys went on a date. She seems really happy smiling face with smiling eyes asterisk. September 5th, Mia to Jake, Emma's been super sick lately, might want to give her some space. Asterisk September 12th, Jake to Mia, is she okay? She seems exhausted every time I see her asterisk. Asterisk September 12th, Mia to Jake, yeah she's been having stomach issues. I'm taking care of her though. Maybe bring her some ginger tea? Asterisk. The messages painted a picture of Mia inserting herself as the go-between in my relationship, positioning herself as the caring friend with insider knowledge about my health. But it was the timestamps that made me dizzy. September 5th, the day after our second date, when I told Mia that Jake and I had relationship potential. She'd hugged me and said she was so happy for me. Then immediately texted Jake to suggest keeping distance. September 12th was the morning after Mia had made me her special pancakes for breakfast. By that evening, I was so sick that Jake had to carry me to his car when I couldn't walk to the bathroom. Look at this one, I whispered, showing Detective Morrison a message from October 15th, asterisk Mia to Jake, Emma had a really bad episode last night. Found her passed out in the bathroom around 2 a.m. Maybe you should come check on her today? She won't admit it, but I think she needs the support. Asterisk. I remembered that night. I'd woken up on the bathroom floor with Mia kneeling beside me, crying and saying she'd been so scared. Jake had shown up an hour later with flowers and my favorite tea, saying Mia had told him what happened. She orchestrated that, I said, my voice barely audible. She poisoned me, then called Jake to come rescue me so she could watch him take care of me. Like she was, experimenting with us. Patricia leaned forward. Emma, this suggests something beyond just jealousy about your relationship. This level of manipulation indicates she was deriving psychological satisfaction from controlling both you and Jake. The worst part was scrolling through Jake's responses. He'd been genuinely worried, asking Mia for advice on how to help me, thanking her for taking such good care of Emma. She'd been feeding him information about my condition while simultaneously causing it, making herself indispensable to both of us. Asterisk October 20th, Jake to Mia, should I be worried about Emma? She's lost so much weight asterisk. Asterisk October 20th, Mia to Jake, I'm worried too. Maybe we should talk her into seeing a specialist? I've been researching chronic digestive issues asterisk. She'd been researching, alright. Researching how to poison me more effectively. There's something else, I said, scrolling to the most recent messages. Look at yesterday. Asterisk October 29th, for 17 p.m., Mia to Jake, Emma left for work but she looked really pale. I'm scared something bad is going to happen asterisk. For 17 p.m. was 23 minutes before I'd collapsed at the bookstore. She'd texted Jake her concern before I'd even gotten sick, like she was setting up her alibi in advance. Detective Morrison was writing furiously in his notepad. This establishes premeditation and shows she was aware her actions would cause you immediate harm. At 11:45 a.m., I stood outside our apartment building, keys trembling in my hand. Detective Morrison and his partner were positioned in an unmarked car across the street. I could see the surveillance van parked near the loading dock. I took a deep breath and walked inside, knowing that in 30 minutes, everything would be over. I just had to survive until then. The apartment felt different when I walked in, like the air itself had changed composition. Mia was waiting in the living room, curled up on our shared couch in her favorite oversized sweater, looking like a picture of concerned friendship. Emma. Oh my god, you look so much better. She jumped up and wrapped me in a hug that made my skin crawl. I was so worried when you weren't answering your phone. Jake said you were really sick. Yeah, just needed some rest, I managed, forcing myself not to pull away too quickly. Thanks for covering with my manager. Of course, babe. That's what friends do. Her smile was so genuine, so perfectly crafted, that for a split second I wondered if I'd gotten everything wrong. This was Mia. Sweet, caring Mia who'd held my hair back when I was throwing up, who'd driven me to 3 different urgent care visits, who'd been poisoning me for 4 months. I made that soup I promised, she continued, heading toward the kitchen. It's this new recipe I found online, supposed to be really good for digestive issues. I added extra ginger and some special herbs. Special herbs. My stomach clenched as I followed her, hyper-aware of every detail now. The kitchen looked exactly the same as always, our mismatched mugs in the sink, her organic groceries neatly arranged on the counter, the little succulent I bought her for her birthday thriving on the windowsill. But now I noticed things I'd never paid attention to before. Like how she kept certain items in the cabinet above the refrigerator, the one I couldn't reach without a step stool. How she always insisted on doing the grocery shopping alone, saying she enjoyed the peace and quiet. How she developed the habit of preparing my food in portions separate from hers, claiming it was because she was trying to eat less processed stuff. You don't have to go to all this trouble, I said, watching her ladle soup into a bowl. The smell made my mouth water despite everything, it really did look delicious. Don't be silly. You've been so sick, Emma. I've been really scared that something was seriously wrong with you. She set the bowl down at our small dining table, the same spot where I'd eaten hundreds of meals over the past 3 years. I actually think you should see a specialist. Jake and I were talking about it, and we both think. You and Jake talk about my health a lot, I interrupted, trying to keep my voice casual. Something flickered across her face, so brief I almost missed it. Well, yeah. We both care about you. When someone you love is sick, you want to help however you can. She sat down across from me, chin propped on her hands, watching expectantly as I picked up the spoon. This was it, the moment she'd been orchestrating all morning. In her mind, I was about to consume whatever cocktail of laxatives she'd prepared, and in a few hours I'd be doubled over in pain while she documented my suffering for her growing social media following. It smells amazing, I said, lifting the spoon halfway to my mouth. What kind of herbs did you use? Oh, just some digestive aids I researched online. Senna leaf is supposed to be really good for stomach issues. She was practically vibrating with anticipation, her eyes fixed on my every movement. Senna leaf. Even I knew that was a natural laxative. Mia, I said slowly, setting the spoon back down. Can I ask you something? Her expression shifted almost imperceptibly. Of course. Do you remember when I first started getting sick? Like, when exactly did you notice I was having problems? She tilted her head, the picture of thoughtful consideration. I think it was late August. You started complaining about stomach cramps after that party at Delta Chi. But I remembered that party. I'd felt fine the entire night. It was the next morning, after Mia had made us both hangover cure smoothies, that I'd gotten violently ill for the first time. Just trying to figure out what might have triggered everything, I said, picking up the spoon again. My phone buzzed in my pocket, probably Detective Morrison's signal that they were in position. Well, you have been under a lot of stress lately, Mia continued, leaning forward. New relationship, heavy course load, that promotion at the bookstore. Sometimes our bodies just break down, you know? Right, I agreed. Although it's weird how it always seems to happen after I eat certain things. This time, the change in her expression was unmistakable. Her eyes hardened for just a fraction of a second before the concerned mask slipped back into place. What do you mean? Nothing, just... I've been keeping track, and there seems to be a pattern. I raised the spoon toward my lips again, watching her lean forward in anticipation. But I'm sure it's just coincidence. The apartment buzzer rang. The apartment buzzer made us both freeze. Mia's head snapped toward the intercom, her carefully constructed expression faltering for just a moment. Are you expecting someone? She asked, but there was something sharp in her voice now, different from the concerned roommate act she'd been performing. No, I said, setting the spoon down again. My heart was hammering so hard I was sure she could hear it. Probably just a delivery for the neighbors. The buzzer rang again, longer this time. Then my phone started ringing. Emma-chan? The voice through the intercom was official, authoritative. This is Detective Morrison with the Metro Police Department. We need to speak with you and your roommate. The blood drained from Mia's face so fast I thought she might faint. She stared at the intercom like it was a bomb that had just started ticking. Police? She whispered. Emma, why would the police want to talk to us? I stood up slowly, my legs unsteady. I don't know. But we both knew that was a lie. Mia's eyes darted to the soup bowl, then to the cabinet above the refrigerator, then back to me. I watched her mind working, calculating, trying to figure out what had gone wrong with her perfect plan. Don't answer it, she said suddenly, grabbing my arm. Her fingers dug into my skin with surprising strength. We don't have to let them in without a warrant. The fact that she knew that her mind had jumped immediately to warrants and legal technicalities, told me everything I needed to know about her guilt. Mia, let go of me. Emma, listen to me. Her voice was urgent now, all pretense of sweetness gone. I don't know what this is about, but you can't trust them. They're probably here about some complaint from our neighbors or something stupid. You know how Mrs. Patterson is always calling the cops about noise. My phone rang again. Detective Morrison's number. I have to answer it, I said, trying to pull away from her grip. No, you don't. Her nails were cutting into my arm now. Emma, you're my best friend. We've been through everything together. Whatever this is, we handle it together, okay? Just us. I looked into her eyes, the same eyes that had looked at me with fake sympathy while I writhed in pain, the same eyes that had watched me grow weaker and sicker while she documented every moment for social media clout. Let go of me, Mia. Something in my tone must have gotten through to her because she released my arm, but she didn't step back. If anything, she moved closer, blocking my path to the intercom. You called them, she said, and it wasn't a question. You actually called the police on me. I went to the hospital last night, I said quietly. They found laxatives in my blood, Mia. Levels that could have killed me. For a split second, her mask slipped completely. I saw something cold and calculating flash across her face, something that had probably been there all along, hidden beneath 3 years of friendship. You don't understand, she said. Emma, you don't understand what you're doing. This will ruin everything. My internship, my graduation, my whole future. Over what? Some stomach problems? Some stomach problems? I stared at her in disbelief. Mia, you've been poisoning me for months. I could have died. Don't be dramatic. I researched everything carefully. I knew exactly what doses were safe. The words came out before she could stop them, and we both froze as the full confession hung in the air between us. The intercom crackled to life again. Ms. Chen, we have a warrant. We're coming up. Mia's eyes went wild. She lunged toward the kitchen counter, yanking open the cabinet above the refrigerator. Bottles and boxes came tumbling out, Dulcolax, X-Lax, Miralax, Senna tablets, magnesium sulfate. An entire pharmacy of laxatives scattered across our kitchen floor. Help me, she gasped, frantically trying to gather them up. Emma, please, help me get rid of these. We can say they're old, that you bought them yourself. Please. I backed toward the door, watching my former best friend scramble around on our kitchen floor, clutching bottles of the substances she'd used to systematically destroy my health. Heavy footsteps echoed in the hallway outside. Please, Mia whispered one more time, looking up at me with tears streaming down her face. Please don't let them ruin my life. The knock on our door was firm and official. I walked over and turned the deadbolt, opening the door to Detective Morrison and 3 other officers. She's in the kitchen, I said. The next few hours blurred together like a fever dream. I watched from the hallway as Detective Morrison and his team processed our apartment, where I'd felt safe for 3 years, like a crime scene. Because that's what it was. Officer Sarah Chen, no relation, despite the shared last name, stayed with me while they worked, asking gentle questions about my symptoms and timeline. I found myself reciting dates and details with mechanical precision, as if I was describing someone else's life. August 29th, severe cramping after breakfast. September 3rd, couldn't keep food down for 18 hours. September 15th, missed 3 days of classes. Through the doorway, I could see them photographing everything, the scattered laxative bottles, the soup bowl still sitting on our dining table, even the smoothie maker that Mia had used to make my hangover cure 4 months ago. They bagged items methodically, the container of soup from the fridge, spice bottles from her special cabinet, even her phone. Mia sat on our couch in handcuffs, no longer crying. Instead, she stared straight ahead with an expression I'd never seen before, cold and calculating. When Detective Morrison knelt down to read her rights, she finally spoke. I want a lawyer. Smart choice, he replied evenly. But I have to ask, is there anything you want to tell us about Emma's condition? Anything that might help us understand the extent of what happened here? She turned to look directly at me for the first time since the police arrived. Her eyes were completely devoid of the warmth I'd known for 3 years. I helped her more than she'll ever know, she said quietly. I took care of her when she was sick. I made sure she ate. I drove her to the doctor. I posted about it so people would know to check on her. If anything, I saved her life. The audacity of it, the complete rewriting of reality, left me speechless. She genuinely seemed to believe that poisoning me had been an act of care. Officer Chen squeezed my shoulder as they led Mia toward the door. Some people create problems so they can be the solution, she said softly. It's more common than you'd think. After they were gone, Detective Morrison sat down across from me at the kitchen table where I'd eaten hundreds of contaminated meals. The lab will confirm everything, but based on what we found here, you're looking at charges of assault with a deadly weapon, reckless endangerment, and possibly attempted murder depending on the dosage levels. He flipped through his notes. The DA will want to interview you next week about pressing charges. What about other victims? I asked, thinking about Patricia's warning from the hospital. You said there might be others. We're already reaching out to the university. Your roommate's social media presence suggests this behavior pattern didn't start with you. He paused, studying my face. Emma, I need you to prepare yourself for the possibility that everything you thought you knew about your friendship was constructed specifically to give her access to hurt you. The words hit like a physical blow. 3 years of shared memories, inside jokes, late-night conversations about our dreams and fears. Had any of it been real? My phone buzzed with a text from Jake, asterisk just saw the police cars. What's happening? Are you okay? Asterisk. I stared at the message, remembering how Mia had inserted herself into our relationship, feeding him information while controlling the narrative. How many of his caring gestures had been her suggestions? How much of what I thought was his genuine concern had been orchestrated by the person who was making me sick in the first place? Asterisk, can you come over? Asterisk, I typed back. Asterisk, I need to explain everything. Asterisk. Jake arrived 20 minutes later to find me sitting alone in our ransacked apartment, staring at the evidence markers still scattered across the kitchen floor. His face went through about 6 different emotions when he saw the police tape and bagged items. Emma, what the hell happened here? Where's Mia? I patted the couch beside me, the same couch where Mia had sat in handcuffs an hour earlier. She was arrested. Jake, I need to show you something, and I need you to not interrupt until I'm done explaining. For the next 30 minutes, I walked him through everything, the hospital visit, the blood test results, the social media evidence, the text messages between him and Mia. I watched his expression shift from confusion to horror to something that looked like nausea. She was giving me updates about you, he said slowly, scrolling through the screenshots on my phone. When you were too sick to respond to my texts, when you had to cancel dates. I thought she was being a good friend. Look at the timestamps, Jake. He studied the messages more carefully, his face growing paler. October 15th. That's the night I brought you soup and stayed up with you because you couldn't stop throwing up. But Mia texted me about you being sick 3 hours before you even got home from class. She knew exactly when the laxatives would hit. She'd been perfecting the timing for months. Jake set my phone down with shaking hands. Jesus Christ, Emma. I was thanking her. I literally thanked her for taking such good care of you while she was. He couldn't finish the sentence. There's more, I said, pulling up Mia's Instagram highlights. She's been documenting everything. Look at the follower count on her TikTok. She gained 12,000 followers in the past 2 months from her chronically ill roommate content. Jake watched one of her videos in silence, the one where she tearfully stirred soup in our kitchen while talking about how hard it was to watch someone you love suffer. His jaw clenched tighter with each sympathetic comment. She was monetizing your pain, he said finally. Emma, some of these videos have sponsored deals. Look, thanks to BetterHelp for sponsoring this video about supporting friends through chronic illness. My stomach dropped. I hadn't noticed the sponsorship details before. She was making money off this? Hundreds of dollars, probably thousands. Mental health apps, meal delivery services, wellness products. Jake's voice was tight with disgust. She built an entire influencer brand around slowly killing you. We sat in silence for a moment, the weight of it settling over us. Then Jake asked the question I'd been dreading. How long do you think she was planning this? I mean, we started dating in August, and that's when you got sick, but... He trailed off, pulling up something on his own phone. Emma, look at this. It was his Instagram, a photo from last December, 8 months ago. We were all at a holiday party, Jake and me talking by the punch bowl while Mia stood in the background. I barely remember the night, but Jake had tagged both of us. I didn't know you then, not really. But Mia commented on this photo the next day. He showed me the comment, asterisk so cute how Emma gets all flirty when she drinks. You two would actually be perfect together winking face asterisk. My blood turned cold. She was matchmaking us? There's more. She started following me on everything after this party, began liking all my posts, commenting about how Emma would love this or you should show this to Emma. I thought it was weird how invested she was in setting us up, but I figured she was just being a good friend. The pieces clicked into place with horrifying clarity. She didn't get jealous when we started dating. She orchestrated us dating. But why would she want us together if she was going to? Jake's voice trailed off as the implications hit him. Because she needed both of us, I whispered. She needed me as the victim and you as the concerned boyfriend. It made her the hero of the story, the devoted friend taking care of her sick roommate while supporting the worried boyfriend. Without you in the picture, she's just a girl with a mysteriously ill roommate. With you, she becomes the saint holding everyone together. Jake's face had gone ashen. She's been manipulating both of us for almost a year. My phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number, asterisk this is Mia. They let me make a call. I need you to know this isn't what it looks like. Meet me at Riverside Park tomorrow at 3 p.m. Come alone. There are things about Jake you don't know. Asterisk. We stared at the message in stunned silence. She's still trying to control the narrative, Jake said finally. But looking at that text, I realized Mia's game was far from over. The arraignment was scheduled for Thursday morning, but I got a call from Detective Morrison on Wednesday night that changed everything. Emma, we need to talk. Can you come to the station tomorrow before the hearing? His tone made my stomach clench. What's wrong? Did something happen? We found some things on Mia's devices that complicate the situation. And we heard back from the university. You weren't her first victim. I sat down heavily on Jake's couch, where I'd been staying since the arrest. What do you mean? Her freshman year roommate, Ashley Martinez, was hospitalized twice for severe dehydration and electrolyte imbalance. Sound familiar? Ashley transferred schools halfway through the year. Said she couldn't handle the stress of being constantly sick. My hand started shaking. Did Ashley know? Did she figure out what Mia was doing? No. Ashley still thinks she had some kind of autoimmune disorder. But here's the thing, Emma, Mia documented that too. We found an entire encrypted folder on her laptop labeled practice run. Screenshots, photos, even videos of Ashley being sick. She kept everything. Practice run. The words made my skin crawl. Ashley hadn't been Mia's roommate, she'd been her trial victim, her chance to perfect the technique before moving on to someone she cared about enough to invest 3 years of friendship into. There's more, Detective Morrison continued. Her search history goes back 18 months. How to poison someone slowly, untraceable ways to make someone sick, laxative overdose symptoms, building social media following chronic illness. She'd been researching this for over a year before she started on you. I closed my eyes, trying to process the magnitude of her meditation. This hadn't been jealousy about Jake. This had been a long-term plan, carefully researched and methodically executed. I'd never been her best friend, I'd been her chosen victim. Emma, there's something else. We found drafts of social media posts on her phone, stuff she never published. One of them is dated for next week. What kind of posts? A GoFundMe campaign. She was planning to start fundraising for your mysterious chronic illness. The draft asks for $15,000 for experimental treatments and specialist visits. She'd already designed graphics and written testimonials supposedly from your family. The betrayal hit me like a physical blow. She'd been planning to crowdfund money from strangers by exploiting the illness she was causing. How many people would have donated, thinking they were helping save my life? The forensics team also recovered some deleted photos from her cloud storage, Detective Morrison said quietly. Pictures of you unconscious in the bathroom, in the hospital bed when she visited, even one of you passed out on the kitchen floor. She kept them all. Some have timestamps showing she took them before calling for help. I thought about that night in October when I'd woken up on the bathroom floor with Mia crying over me. She'd taken photos first. She documented my suffering before performing her rescue. How long did she wait? I asked, my voice barely a whisper. Based on the metadata, sometimes 15 or 20 minutes. Long enough to get the perfect shot for her narrative. After I hung up, I sat in Jake's living room staring at the wall, trying to reconcile the person I'd loved like a sister with the calculating predator the evidence revealed. Every kindness, every moment of care, every shared laugh, it had all been performance art. Jake found me there an hour later, still holding my silent phone. What did Morrison say? I told him everything, watching his face cycle through the same disbelief and horror I was feeling. When I finished, he was quiet for a long time. There's something I didn't tell you before, he said finally. About that text she sent you from jail. I looked up at him. What? I'd been thinking about it, and I realized, how did she get my number originally? I never gave it to her directly. But she knew exactly how to reach me about your condition, knew when I'd be free to come check on you. What are you saying? Jake pulled out his phone, scrolling through old messages. She had to have gotten my number from your phone, right? But when? You never left your phone lying around, and we weren't even that close until she started playing matchmaker. The implication hit me like ice water. You think she went through my phone before we were even dating? I think she's been planning this whole thing since that Christmas party. She picked me specifically, Emma. She researched my schedule, my habits, probably my entire social media presence before she ever started pushing us together. My phone buzzed with another text from the unknown number, * Emma, please. I know you're reading these. I never wanted to hurt you. Everything I did was because I love you. Meet me tomorrow. I can explain everything. *. Jake read the message over my shoulder. She's still trying to control you, even from jail. Detective Morrison said not to respond to any communication from her. Good. Block the number. But as I moved to block it, another text came through, * Ask Jake about the photos on his laptop. Ask him why he really started dating you. Some people aren't who they seem, Emma. I was trying to protect you. *. Jake went very still beside me. What photos? I asked quietly. Jake's face went completely white as he read the text over my shoulder. The silence stretched between us for what felt like an eternity, and I watched something that looked like panic flicker across his features. What photos, Jake? He set his phone down with trembling hands. Emma, I can explain. It's not what she's trying to make it sound like. My stomach dropped. After everything I discovered about Mia's manipulation, the last thing I could handle was finding out that Jake had been hiding something too. What photos? I repeated, my voice sharper this time. From before we started dating. I had pictures of you on my laptop. Screenshots from your Instagram, photos from parties where you were in the background. It wasn't stalking, I swear. He ran his hands through his hair, looking miserable. I had the biggest crush on you for months before Mia started pushing us together. I thought you were completely out of my league. Screenshots of my Instagram? I stared at him, trying to process this new information. How many photos? A lot, he admitted quietly. Like, embarrassingly many. I had this whole folder saved on my desktop. When Mia started commenting about how we'd be perfect together, I thought maybe she'd noticed how I looked at you at parties. I figured she was just being a good wing woman. My mind was reeling. Jake, when did you start collecting these photos? Last fall, maybe October? You probably don't even remember, but we were both at that study group for Professor Chen's statistics class. You were explaining some concept to another student, and you had this way of lighting up when you talked about something you understood. I went home and looked you up on everything. October of last year. That was 14 months ago, long before Mia had supposedly started her research into poisoning techniques, but right around the time she would have been planning her approach. Did you ever tell anyone about having those photos? Anyone at all? Jake's expression grew even more troubled. Just Mia, actually. Back in February. We were at that coffee shop near campus, and she was asking about my dating life. I might have mentioned that I'd been interested in you for a while. She said she'd suspected that it was obvious how I looked at you. February. 2 months before Mia began her intensive research into making someone chronically ill. 2 months before she started her practice run with Ashley Martinez. Jake, what exactly did you tell her? I told her I'd been following your social media for months, that I had saved some of your photos because I thought you were beautiful. She laughed and said it was sweet, that she could tell you liked me too but were too shy to make a move. He looked at me with desperate eyes. Emma, I know how it sounds, but it wasn't creepy. I was just infatuated. I never would have acted on it if she hadn't encouraged me. Another text came through, * he told me he'd been watching you online for months before you ever spoke. Said he knew your schedule, your favorite spots on campus. I got worried about his obsession. Everything I did was to test whether he really cared about you or just the idea of you. *. I showed Jake the message, and he went even paler. That's not true. Emma, she's twisting everything. Yes, I knew your schedule, but only because I was hoping to run into you naturally. The photos were it was just a crush. She's saying she poisoned me to test your feelings? She's manipulating the situation again. Don't you see? Even now, she's trying to come between us. She's trying to make you doubt me so that when this all comes out in court, it looks like I was somehow complicit. My phone buzzed again, * ask him about the night of September 14th. Ask him why he showed up at your apartment with soup and medicine before I even called him. Ask him how he knew you'd be sick. * September 14th. The night I'd gotten violently ill after Mia's famous chicken soup. I remember being surprised when Jake appeared at our door with supplies, but Mia had explained that she'd texted him about my condition. Jake, that night in September when you brought me soup and ginger tea. How did you know to come over? His face crumpled. Mia texted me that afternoon saying you were feeling queasy and might need some support later. She suggested I pick up supplies just in case. I thought she was being thoughtful, giving me a chance to take care of you. She texted you before I was even sick. Yeah, around 2 p.m. You didn't start feeling bad until after dinner, remember? The timeline was becoming clearer and more disturbing. Mia had been coordinating both sides of her sick game, poisoning me and then orchestrating Jake's response. She'd been controlling both the problem and the solution, making herself indispensable while building Jake's role as the devoted boyfriend. My phone rang. Detective Morrison. Emma, we need you to come in tonight. Mia's attorney is pushing for an emergency bail hearing tomorrow morning, claiming she has new evidence that suggests she wasn't acting alone. She's trying to implicate Jake as a co-conspirator. I looked at Jake, whose face had gone ashen as he listened to my side of the conversation. What kind of evidence? I asked Morrison. Text messages between them dating back months, apparently showing they planned this together. Her lawyer is claiming Jake was in on the poisoning scheme from the beginning and that Mia was coerced into participating. Jake grabbed my arm. Emma, you know that's not true. You've seen all our messages, she was manipulating both of us. But suddenly I wasn't sure what I knew anymore. The photos on his laptop, his knowledge of my schedule, the perfectly timed appearances whenever I was sick, what if Mia's final manipulation was actually the truth? I stared at Jake across the police station interview room, fluorescent lights casting harsh shadows on his face. Detective Morrison sat between us with a manila folder thick with printed text messages. These communications between you and Mia go back 13 months, Morrison said, sliding papers across the metal table. Her attorney claims they show a pattern of coordination that predates Emma's illness by several months. My hand shook as I read the first page. Text exchanges between Jake and Mia from November of last year, weeks before the Christmas party where she'd supposedly first noticed his interest in me. Asterisk November 18th, Jake to Mia, does Emma ever talk about dating anyone? Asterisk. Asterisk November 18th, Mia to Jake, not really, why? Eyes asterisk. Asterisk November 18th, Jake to Mia, just curious. She seems really focused on school asterisk. November 20th, Mia to Jake, you like her don't you lol. Asterisk November 20th, Jake to Mia, is it that obvious? Asterisk. Asterisk November 20th, Mia to Jake, only to me. I'm very observant about these things asterisk. You were talking about me before we'd even had a real conversation, I said quietly, looking up at Jake. You told me you developed feelings at the Christmas party. I lied about the timing because I didn't want you to think I was a stalker, Jake said desperately. Emma, these messages don't prove I was involved in making you sick. They just show I had a crush. Morrison flipped to another page. It gets more concerning, Jake. Look at February 23rd. February 23rd, Mia to Jake, I've been thinking about what you said about Emma being too independent to accept help. February 23rd, Jake to Mia, yeah, she's not the type to lean on people. Asterisk February 23rd, Mia to Jake, what if she needed someone to take care of her? Like if she got sick or something? Asterisk. February 23rd, Jake to Mia, I'd want to be there for her obviously. Asterisk February 23rd, Mia to Jake, even if it meant a lot of responsibility? Like really sick, needing constant support? Asterisk. Asterisk February 23rd, Jake to Mia, especially then. That's what love means, right? Asterisk. The room went dead silent. I read the exchange 3 times, each pass making my stomach clench tighter. Jake, I whispered, she was testing whether you'd be willing to take care of a chronically ill girlfriend. 2 weeks before she started researching how to poison someone. That doesn't mean I knew what she was planning. Jake's voice cracked. Emma, you have to believe me. I thought we were just talking hypothetically about commitment. Morrison turned to another highlighted section. March 15th gets more specific. Asterisk March 15th, Mia to Jake, hypothetically, if Emma had some kind of chronic digestive condition, would that change how you feel? Asterisk. Asterisk March 15th, Jake to Mia, of course not. Why would you ask that? Asterisk. March 15th, Mia to Jake, just making sure you're not one of those guys who disappears when things get complicated. Asterisk March 15th, Jake to Mia, I'd take care of her no matter what. Sickness, health, all of it asterisk. Asterisk March 15th, Mia to Jake, good answer. She deserves someone who would stick around through the hard times asterisk. March 15th was exactly 1 week before she ordered the first laxatives online, Morrison said grimly. Her browser history shows she purchased Dulcolax and magnesium sulfate on March 22nd. I felt like I was drowning. She was planning my illness based on your responses, Jake. She knew exactly what kind of boyfriend you'd be to a sick girl because she asked you directly. I didn't know that's what she was doing. Jake reached for my hand, but I pulled away. Emma, please. Look at the dates. She started getting weird about us being perfect together right after these conversations, but I thought she was just being supportive. Morrison flipped to the most damning page yet. April 8th, Jake. 3 weeks before you asked Emma out. Asterisk April 8th, Mia to Jake, I think Emma might be developing some health issues. She's been complaining about stomach problems asterisk. Asterisk April 8th, Jake to Mia, is she okay? Should she see a doctor? Asterisk. Asterisk April 8th, Mia to Jake, she's stubborn about medical stuff. But if it gets worse, she might need someone to make sure she takes care of herself asterisk. April 8th, Jake to Mia, I wish I could help somehow. April 8th, Mia to Jake, maybe you'll get the chance soon smiling face with smiling eyes. April 8th. But I hadn't started having any stomach problems until late August. Mia had been laying groundwork for my illness 4 months before she began poisoning me. She told you I was already sick when I wasn't, I said slowly. She was preparing you to be the concerned boyfriend before there was anything to be concerned about. Jake's face had gone gray. Emma, I swear I didn't realize she was. Jesus Christ, she was grooming me to be your caretaker. The prosecution believes Mia has been planning this for over a year, Morrison said. But her attorney is arguing that you were an active participant who helped select Emma as a target and coordinated the timing of her illnesses to maximize your opportunities to play hero. That's insane, Jake said, but his voice lacked conviction. I would never hurt Emma. My phone buzzed with another message from Mia's number. Asterisk show him the screenshots from his laptop Emma. Ask him about the folder labeled future plans. Some of those photos were taken with telephoto lens from across campus. He was stalking you long before I ever gave him permission to approach you. Asterisk. I showed the message to Morrison, who made a note in his file. We'll need to examine Jake's devices, he said. Tonight. Jake looked at me with desperate eyes. Emma, whatever she claims is on my laptop, there's an explanation. Don't let her destroy us too. Isn't it enough that she destroyed your health? But as I sat in that sterile room, surrounded by evidence of months of manipulation, I realized I wasn't sure who had been playing whom anymore. The forensics team finished imaging Jake's laptop at 2:47 a.m. Detective Morrison called me into a separate interview room while they processed the files, his expression unreadable. Emma, we found the folder Mia referenced. There are over 300 photos of you spanning 14 months. Some were clearly taken without your knowledge from significant distances across campus. My stomach dropped. How far back do they go? September of last year. Long before you two started dating. He slid a printed contact sheet across the table. These aren't just social media screenshots. Someone followed you to classes, to work, to study sessions in the library. There are photos of you eating lunch alone, walking to your car, even entering your apartment building. I stared at the timestamps. September 15th, me walking out of Professor Chen's statistics class. September 22nd, me studying at a corner table in the library's 3rd floor. October 3rd, me leaving my evening shift at the bookstore. All taken from angles that suggested the photographer was hiding. Jake couldn't have taken all of these, I said slowly. Look at October 3rd, that's taken from inside the campus bookstore, but Jake's never worked there. And this one from November 8th shows me in the restricted section of the library where you need student employee access. Morrison leaned forward. What are you thinking? Mia worked in the library last fall. She had access to all floors, and her shift schedule would have put her there exactly when this photo was taken. I pointed to another timestamp. And this one from the bookstore, she came to visit me at work constantly. She always said she was just stopping by to say hi, but she was documenting your routines. She was building a profile. Look at these dates, they correspond with times when I was completely alone. No friends around, no study groups. She was mapping out when I'd be most isolated. Morrison pulled out his phone and called someone. We need to examine Mia Chen's devices again. Look specifically for photo metadata and geolocation data from September through December of last year. While we waited, he showed me more evidence from Jake's computer. There's something else, Emma. Jake's search history shows he was researching you extensively, but not in the way Mia suggested. The printout made my chest tighten. Emma Chen academic achievements, Emma Chen dean's list, Emma Chen volunteer work, statistics tutoring campus. These aren't stalker searches, Morrison continued. He was researching your accomplishments, your interests. Like someone trying to figure out how to approach you genuinely. That's actually kind of sweet, I admitted reluctantly. Here's what's interesting, Jake's search history stops completely in February when Mia started pushing you two together. But Mia's search history from the same period shows she was researching Jake just as thoroughly. His class schedule, his work history, even his family background. My phone buzzed with yet another message, asterisk they're going to try to pin everything on me Emma. Don't let them fool you. Check Jake's bank account for March. Check who paid for all those expensive dinners he took you on. Some investments pay off in unexpected ways. Asterisk. What expensive dinners? I asked Morrison. Jake and I always went Dutch or ate at cheap places. He's on the same tight college budget I am. Morrison was already making notes. We'll need to examine financial records for both of them going back 6 months. At 4:15 a.m., the forensics technician knocked on the interview room door. Detective? You need to see this. In the computer lab, she pulled up a file recovery program running on Mia's seized laptop. We found deleted surveillance photos dating back 13 months. But here's the thing, they weren't taken by her. The screen showed dozens of recovered images, all of me, all taken from distances and angles that suggested professional equipment. Each file had metadata showing the original photographer. The camera owner was listed as M. Rodriguez, Private Investigations. She hired a private investigator to follow you, Morrison said quietly. Emma, this wasn't just poisoning. This was comprehensive stalking with professional surveillance. My hands started shaking. For over a year? The investigator's files show she paid him $3,200 over 4 months to document your daily routines, social connections, and personal habits. She had detailed reports on your class attendance, work schedule, even your study habits. The room started spinning. Mia hadn't just been my roommate and friend, she'd been conducting professional surveillance on me since sophomore year. Every conversation about my day, every casual question about my plans, had been her cross-referencing the intelligence she'd purchased. There's more, the technician continued. The deleted files include email exchanges with the investigator discussing optimal intervention timing and subject isolation strategies. Morrison turned to me with grim eyes. Emma, I need you to think carefully. Is there any reason Mia would have invested thousands of dollars and over a year of planning into systematically destroying your life? Any inheritance, any competition for jobs or opportunities, anything that would make harming you financially beneficial? I tried to think through the fog of exhaustion and betrayal. Then I remembered something that made my blood turn cold. The Davidson Research Fellowship, I whispered. We both applied for it last spring. It's a $50,000 grant plus guaranteed graduate school placement. The recipient gets announced next month. Morrison and I stared at each other as the final piece of Mia's plan clicked into place. She hadn't been poisoning me for social media fame or to test Jake's devotion. She'd been eliminating her competition. The Davidson Research Fellowship application deadline had been March 15th, exactly the same day Mia had tested Jake's willingness to care for a chronically ill girlfriend. While I'd been struggling to complete my application between classes and work, fighting through the brain fog that I now knew was from systematic poisoning, she'd been ensuring I'd be too sick to compete effectively. Dr. Martinez mentioned your academic performance had declined significantly this semester, Morrison said, pulling out my medical files. Missed classes, incomplete assignments, inability to concentrate. All symptoms consistent with chronic laxative poisoning. I thought back to my fellowship interview in September, how I'd barely made it through the presentation, sweating and nauseous, having to excuse myself twice for bathroom breaks. The selection committee had looked concerned about my health issues affecting my ability to handle the program's rigorous demands. Meanwhile, Mia had interviewed the same day, perfectly composed and energetic, expressing heartfelt concern about my mysterious illness during her presentation. She'd even incorporated my situation into her research proposal, suggesting she wanted to study chronic conditions in young adults. She used my illness as part of her application, I realized aloud. She told the committee she was inspired to research digestive disorders because of watching her roommate suffer. Morrison's phone buzzed. Forensics found financial records. Emma, Mia received a $5,000 payment from someone 3 weeks ago. The transfer came from an account registered to Davidson Medical Research Foundation. My stomach clenched. That's impossible. Fellowship recipients aren't announced until next month. Unless the selection was already made, and certain people were notified early. Morrison was typing rapidly on his laptop. I'm requesting records from the university about the fellowship timeline. At 5:30 a.m., my phone rang. Jake's number. Morrison nodded for me to answer. Emma, where are you? I've been calling for hours. Jake's voice was strained, exhausted. They released me an hour ago, but they took all my electronics. I need to see you. Jake, they found surveillance photos going back over a year. Professional ones. What? Emma, I never hired anyone to follow you. I barely have money for textbooks, let alone private investigators. He paused. Wait, are you saying Mia hired someone to stalk you? Before I could answer, Morrison's laptop chimed with an incoming email. His expression grew darker as he read. Emma, the fellowship committee made their preliminary selection on October 15th. The official announcement was delayed due to administrative review, but the recipient was chosen weeks ago. October 15th. The night I'd mysteriously passed out on the bathroom floor and Mia had called Jake to come help. The night she documented my suffering with photographs before calling for assistance. Who won the fellowship? I asked, though I already knew. Mia Chin. She was notified on October 16th and received an advance payment for research expenses. Morrison looked up from his screen. Emma, there's a clause in the fellowship terms that allows the committee to rescind the award if the recipient is convicted of any crimes involving academic dishonesty or harm to fellow students. Everything crystallized in that moment. Mia hadn't just been trying to win the fellowship, she'd been ensuring she could keep it. Every day she'd made me sicker, every missed class and failed assignment, every public documentation of my declining health, had been building toward this moment when her victory would be announced and mine would be impossible. She's going to lose everything, I said quietly. If she's convicted, yes. The fellowship, the graduate school placement, probably her undergraduate degree too. Morrison closed his laptop. Emma, I think that's why she's been trying so hard to implicate Jake. If she can claim she was coerced or manipulated into the poisoning, she might avoid the felony conviction that would destroy her academic future. My phone buzzed with another message from Mia. Asterisk, the fellowship was supposed to be yours originally. I know that now. Meet me tomorrow and I'll tell them I made it all up. We can fix this, Emma. We can go back to being best friends. Asterisk. Even facing criminal charges and the loss of everything she'd worked for, she was still trying to manipulate me. But this time I could see exactly what she was doing. The trial lasted 3 weeks. I testified for 2 full days, walking the jury through medical records, social media posts, and the timeline of systematic poisoning that had nearly killed me. Mia sat at the defendant's table in a conservative blue dress, occasionally dabbing her eyes with tissues, still performing even now. Her defense attorney tried every angle, temporary mental breakdown, misguided concern for my health, even claiming I'd been self-medicating and pinning it on her out of embarrassment. But the evidence was overwhelming. The professional surveillance, the deleted photos of me unconscious, the correlation between her cooking and my hospitalizations, the Davidson Fellowship motive, it all painted a picture of calculated, long-term predation. The jury deliberated for 6 hours. Guilty on all counts, aggravated assault, reckless endangerment, criminal harassment, and fraud related to the fellowship application. The judge sentenced her to 4 years in prison and ordered her to pay $47,000 in restitution for my medical expenses and lost wages. She'd also been permanently banned from receiving any academic fellowships or grants. The Davidson Foundation awarded the fellowship to me instead, along with a formal apology for not recognizing the extraordinary circumstances that had affected my initial performance. The day after sentencing, I finally returned to our apartment to pack her remaining belongings. Jake came with me, neither of us speaking much as we boxed up 3 years of shared life. I found things I'd missed before, a hidden camera disguised as a phone charger pointed at the kitchen, printed copies of my class schedule from every semester, even a journal where she'd meticulously tracked my symptoms and their correlation with different laxative doses. Optimal dosage achieved, subject incapacitated for 18 hours without requiring hospitalization, read one entry from September. Need to reduce magnesium sulfate to avoid obvious dehydration symptoms before fellowship interview. She'd been treating me like a lab experiment. At the bottom of her desk drawer, I found a letter she'd apparently written but never sent. It was addressed to me, dated 3 days before her arrest. Emma, I know you'll probably hate me when this is over, but I need you to understand that everything I did came from love. You're brilliant and beautiful and you deserve everything good in this world. But you also deserve to know what it felt like to really need someone, to understand how precious good health is, to appreciate the people who take care of you when you're vulnerable. I gave you Jake's devotion, your family's attention, and an entire social media following who cared about your well-being. Before me, you were taking everything for granted. I made your life richer. I made your relationships deeper. I made you matter to thousands of people. You'll see someday that I was the best friend you ever had. Love always, Mia. I read it twice, then handed it to Jake. She really believes she helped me. Narcissists always rewrite the story, he said quietly. She can't admit she's a monster, so she makes herself a misunderstood hero. 6 months later, I'm fully recovered physically. The intestinal damage healed, my energy returned, and I gained back the 15 pounds I'd lost. I'm starting the Davidson Research Fellowship in the fall, focusing on the psychological profile of healthcare-adjacent poisoners, Mia's final, unintended gift to my academic career. Jake and I are still together, though it took months of therapy to rebuild trust after everything. We both had to learn the difference between genuine care and manufactured crisis, between real intimacy and orchestrated dependency. Sometimes I still get texts from unknown numbers, Mia, finding new ways to contact me from prison. I delete them without reading now. Her story is over. Mine is just beginning. The girl who tried to poison me for a fellowship is exactly where she belongs. And I'm finally, completely, safely free.